You're listening to the All American Actors Podcast, episode 28. In today's episode, I'm talking with Chicken and Chips Casting. They're going to give us the inside scoop into the world of casting. That's coming up next. Ready to go behind the scenes and learn what it really takes to build a sustainable career as a working actor in the U.S. film and TV industry? Join me, Katherine Beck, your all-American accent coach, as I give you the insight and inspiration to take action on your career. Learn my best tips and tricks to performing with an American accent, and hear from working actors and other industry professionals to give you a comprehensive overview of this biz we call showbiz. This is the All-American Actors Podcast. Before we start today's episode, I want to give a big shout out to Cal Sale, who sent me this 5-star review and says, "This is a must listen for any actor looking to better their American accent." Thank you so much. And that really is one of my goals with the podcast, is to help you improve your American accent and look at other ways to go about improving your accent. So not just focusing on the sounds of the accent, which is, how so many actors are taught when we learn about accent, is just focus on the sounds. But I like to focus on the other stuff too, that, maybe you're not getting taught and will actually help you book the job. So thank you so much for your review. These 5-star reviews really mean so very much to me. Not only to hear how my listeners like you are gaining value from the podcast episodes, but because it helps us get ranked and recognized on Apple, which means we can get seen, we can get heard by so many more actors all across the world. So if you are loving this podcast, do me a quick favor. It only takes about 30 seconds of your time. Just make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet subscribed. Tap the 5 stars and write a brief review about the podcast. It would mean so very much to me. You'll get a mention on the show, right here on the show. So if you're loving this podcast episode, go ahead and leave us a review. All right. Now, I met these two wonderful ladies several years ago at a workshop. We were both invited to teach at this workshop, and I was so intrigued by these two ladies because what they were doing in the world of casting just seemed so refreshing. And they are called Chicken and Chips Casting, which is a casting office right here in Sydney. It was founded in 2015. It is a full-service casting company, which means they cast for film, they cast for television, commercials, and all other forms of content and media. Now, Chicken and Chips Casting is the creation of casting directors Alison Fowler and Stephanie Pringle, who are known in Australia as a dynamic casting duo. These are two amazing ladies in the field of casting. So without further ado, let's jump into the interview. Welcome to the show. Today I've got the fabulous duo of Steph and Al, who are Chicken and Chips Casting. Hi, ladies.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you so much for being on the show. Why don't we start by just telling our audience a little bit about who you are and what you do in terms of the realm of casting?
So we are Chicken and Chips Casting. We've been a duo we just had our 6th birthday last week. So very exciting.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we launched the business in 2015 out of a bit of ambition to explore more creative projects. So we were doing a lot of commercials and stuff at our old casting agency, and we sort of wanted to explore more film, TV, long form stuff. So that was sort of why we wanted to do our own thing.
Yep.
I came from a production background before, and then have worked in casting for, it's going on 11 years now, I think.
And I worked in advertising, which is how I ended up working in a commercial casting agency. And then, here we are.
So how did the two of you join forces and become Chicken and Chips? What was the vision behind that?
So we worked together at a different casting company, and a client of mine, Rob Spencer from Ogilvy, called me one day and was like, "I've got this girl, I think you'd love her. She needs to get out of advertising, so can you give her a trial in the studio? I think she'd be really good at it as an assistant." And I was like pulling my hair out because it was so busy and I needed staff, and I was like, "Yep." And so Al came in, and I feel like we just got along immediately, and it was just sort of this kind of love affair from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because we work really well together. We've got different strengths in terms of, like, Al's very organised and, like, you know, meticulous, and I'm very, like, crazy and don't know what I'm doing. So I feel like we complement. I don't know what I'm doing. I do know what I'm doing.
The yin to the other's yang sort of thing.
Yeah. So I feel like we have different skills and stuff. So I think, from the beginning it was just like we just got along really well. And I was really just wanting to get into film, really. It was like my main career goal is that I wanted to cast more long form stuff.
And we both kind of agreed on that. Like, I didn't work in casting for nearly as long as Steph, but once I got the sort of bones of it and got into it, it was like, long form.
Yeah.
Like, I want to read scripts. And I used to act as a kid, so I really liked reading scripts and doing character work. And so the fact that we both sort of came together and said that was something we wanted to do, we were like, well, let's just do it.
And so, we were babies. We were 26.
Oh, younger.
24.
I can't remember. How old are we now? Oh, maybe 26, 25.
25 or 26 when we opened the business. And I think we just, because we didn't have kids then either, so it was just like this kind of low risk situation where we were just like, well, whatever. Like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And at least we can say we tried.
Yeah.
And then I'll just go be a teacher. That's what I thought.
Yeah, we used to have a lot of conversations about what our backup career would be. I haven't thought about that for a while, so that's nice.
So that's good.
Well, I was impressed. I think I probably met both of you that first year that you're in business. And I was thinking, gosh, these women are so young, and how amazing is it that they've just decided from one day to the next just to start a casting office in Sydney, you know, and just put it out there. And I think I read somewhere that you got some award for under 30. Is that right?
Yeah. We won the 30 under 30 award in
entrepreneur category.
Yeah. I don't know if that's what the year on it. I don't know. We were 29, so
we just scraped in. Actually, it was when I was pregnant, so it was 2018.
2018. So and no other casting director had ever won that award. I think we wrote that goal down on a bit of butcher's paper, like in our first year of business. I was like, I'd really like to just enter this award, and we ended up winning it. And we were just like, it was
kind of a shock.
Yeah, came out of left field a little bit. But then we got nominated last year for 3 CGA awards, so the Casting Guild. So I think that was like really exciting for us to be kind of recognised in
our field,
in our industry by other casting directors, which was nice.
Yeah, for sure. And what do you think sets you apart or made you stand out right from the get-go? I know for me, it was the name. I saw Chicken and Chips and I'm like, what is this place? Chicken and Chips Casting. It already got me thinking about, I want to know more about this casting office. But from your perspective, what do you think when you started out and got the ball rolling really helped, get that momentum for your business?
I think we were very lucky because we had some very solid foundations made in our previous job. So we were incredibly lucky that a lot of clients came with us without us having to do anything, and we were really it was really important for us that happened organically, and that did. And then I think you're right, things like the name, and just by the sheer fact that we were young, we didn't really like to bang on about it because it does sort of morph into a world where people don't take you seriously, but it was more that it was a fresh perspective, and we were more driven. We sort of had the fire in our belly, so we were willing to work endlessly and hard, and we were really passionate about making connections and working on new projects. So I think that was a big thing.
Yeah, and I think we also had this ambition to discover people who we felt needed a platform and weren't given the space. So just seeing the same people all the time, and there was not much diversity. Even just in the 6 years that we've been doing this, the whole diversity conversation has gone from basically nothing to this is at the forefront of our conversations every single day. And also, we were the first casting office to open in like a really long time, like over 10 years. There hadn't been any fresh blood in casting, apart from, obviously people bringing on assistants and associates and stuff under their own banners. But as for a new casting office, there wasn't anyone that had done that in Sydney for a really long time. So, yeah, we just sort of had a fresh take on it. And I think our clients really love the way we work, in the sense of that we're just really easygoing and collaborative, and we just kind of...
But we're fast-paced as well.
We do things quickly, and Al and I we work as a team on every job, and it's really seamless, the communication, but we can also provide two different creative ideas on a script, which is unique, I think.
That is interesting that you talk about the diversity and all of that. I know when I first moved to Sydney, which was 16 years ago, and I moved here as an actor, I found that to be one of the areas that I felt like I struggled. You know, being an American, moving to Australia, it was hard to get work here. So I had to learn the Australian accent and find ways to, adapt into the industry. But I did feel like it was very much certain types of people, certain types of roles always being produced out here. It wasn't as broad as maybe it is now. So have you noticed that even in the before you started Chicken and Chips to then when you started to now, progression into the types of roles that are available in Australia?
Totally. I think we started with the vision that we would have an open mind for all roles, unless it was intrinsic to the story that they required some form of accent, because that was what the character, or they needed to be from a specific ethnic background because of the story. So with accent diversity, I know that they used to be shocking like 10 years ago. They particularly for commercials, that people would just write like Australian accent, or, they just weren't open to any sort of form of what they would consider outside the box. But we have for every single job, every role, we always invite a couple of actors to test that might be completely outside the box in terms of what the director thinks they want. And the statistic is pretty high that we call them wild cards, that those wild cards would book the job. Yeah, it's just about offering different, and diversity has such diversity within it. So there's disability and ethnic diversity, gender diversity, and accent diversity. There's such a broad range, and then within that there's such a broad range. So it's it opens up creatively so many more possibilities if you look at a role that's, not too boxed, in not a boxed way.
And in terms of the projects that you're working on, then is it mostly Australian-based productions, or are you now branching out into the U.S. industry as well? Because, I know there's a lot of projects coming this way from the U.S. and that sort of thing.
Our body of work is very much Australian at this point. We did early on in the business take a couple of trips over to LA, and we did meet with a lot of people and networks and studios, which was really great and successful, and we made some really good connections. But we were babies then, and I think that we would go back with a very different perspective now, but I don't think that's on the cards anytime soon because #COVID. But we're actually we really love working locally, and we love our local teams and talent. So it's just a bit of a... It's sort of a similar thing to what actors go through, I guess, with building up a body of work in Australia, and we're really proud to work on Australian stuff and help people tell their stories, because I think that's really important, and we're really passionate about that. And supporting our industry, yeah. But it is obviously one of our goals to work on a big American contract. That would be amazing. But it is like I said before, like actors building up credits in order to, get bigger projects. That's kind of what we're doing. And we've seen such a difference in the kind of scripts that come across our desk now in comparison to what we were working on 6 years ago. Yeah. So there's definitely been
a fast progression for us in that short amount of time, I think.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, of course. And that's always going to grow. And so because you've worked on so many different types of content, from commercials to movies to television as well, I'm assuming, is there any specific part that you enjoy casting more than the other? Or is there a real vision for where you want to take Chicken and Chips?
Oh, I mean, we want to be an empire.
We have a vision. We do. But we have, we like a bit of everything. So we're not like, we can't pinpoint exactly what we want because everything's so different.
Well, the processes are different. So, for instance, we love working on commercials because they're tight turnaround, they're fast-paced. It's very, quick back and forth.
Job satisfaction because you get to just do the job, see it on air, and you're like, I did that.
In 30 days, you get to see a result, whereas for film, it's a slow burn. Like, we could be attached at pre-production stage where we're just sort of throwing out ideas, and then the
shoot
film
for a year.
Might not shoot for a year, and then you might not see it for another year. So that's a really long kind of process.
But we love doing that ensemble cast work. So piecing together
ensembles.
Yeah.
And nothing can compare to seeing like your cast on a big screen in the cinema and people, like, for instance, Ellie and Abby that we cast a couple of years ago, they had a sold-out screening to open Mardi Gras Film Festival last year, and it was the most incredible thing because it got us everyone in the theatre. It was a standing ovation. People were crying. It was just like, there was just so much beautiful feedback from that.
Yeah,
and that I've never experienced anything like that before. So. Yeah.
Oh, it's incredible. It is. It's a good feeling when you can see and be so proud of your work and see it on the big screen.
Yeah.
I'm curious because it has been a crazy year. What is going on now for you? Because I know, Australia's in a different position. Do you now have the casting doors open? Do you have actors coming back for auditions in person? Still doing the self-tapes?
Both.
We've just this week, because last week we sort of decided that we were going to bring back studio. We were kind of hesitant, only in a sense that self-taping was working so well and everyone's really getting really good at it, and it really does allow you to see more people and be a bit more creative with inviting people to tape, because it's less time in studio, so you can just see more people. But then we got so many projects. We have so many projects on the boil that we're working on that we were like, we need to limit our watching time.
Yeah.
So this week we've got, 2 sessions in studio.
Yeah.
Which is wild. And I'm like, how do I do this again?
Yeah. Yeah. So but we still are doing a combination, and I think we always will. Because like Steph's saying, self-taping just allows us to see a few more people and it gets us to be a little bit more creative that we might not have the time to do in studio, but we can, push the boundaries a little bit with some tapes.
Yeah. And I think it gives actors, like, allowing that option for self-taping, it gives actors more access. So, for instance, it used to be, and I was saying this at the beginning of COVID, which I thought was going to be really beneficial for creative people, is that you don't necessarily now have to live in a metro city to be able to be an actor. You can totally, and we've had people auditioning from all over the place and living in Newcastle or up the coast somewhere, and it's just like it just gives geographical access, which I think is something that we didn't have before, because a lot of casting directors just wouldn't accept self-tapes before COVID. We always did, but a lot of people didn't, and I just think that's kind of
a shame.
Yeah, it is. So now we're just like, everyone's open to it. We're used to the process. I think that will always be it will always definitely be a part of our process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's great. It's a definite benefit for the actors as well. I'm wondering, because sometimes, when I'm coaching actors and they're working on their self-tape auditions, do you ever give out requirements, like just specifically just one take, or do they have the option of giving multiple takes, different, perspectives on the role?
We've always been, we always do 2 takes. It's always been what we do in studio and what we ask for in self-tapes. In fact, and I know Steph does as well, find it frustrating when you get a tape and there's only one take, because we do want to see that other perspective. We want to see a different take on it, or we just want to see you try something different, because one doesn't, and especially because it's self-tapes, you don't get the opportunity to meet them and do a run through, or it's literally just that one take, and you don't get to see anything else, and you're not sure whether that's them or whether it was a character, or because you didn't even get to meet them. There's just so much there's so much assumption to be made just on one take. So yeah, we always ask for two.
Yeah. And in terms of the two takes, so do you recommend, let's say, one where they really stick to the rules of what, you're looking for in terms of the character, and then they can have a little bit more fun, maybe give their own perspective on the character in the second one?
Yeah. I mean, we love improv work. It's one of our most favourite things. So a lot of scripts don't really, if it's drama, it often doesn't lend itself to improv, but in any situation where improv can be used, we suggest people just do what they want to do with the character off script, because that's their opportunity to be different and stand out.
Yeah, I love that. That's so great, because I think a lot of times actors worry about, thinking about getting inside the casting director's head and what are they looking for, and am I doing it right, or should I be doing this or not doing that they end up making it a lot harder for themselves. So I think that's really wonderful feedback and really beneficial.
Sometimes is that we don't even know what we're looking for.
Exactly.
So, and it's so beautiful when an actor does something that is different.
Yeah.
And because we tell this to every actor, everyone gets the same material. So you all get the same words on the page. And it's just about thinking, how can I bring something unique to this character? Not what is the casting director looking for? Because it's just, sometimes we just don't know. And you could try something so crazy and we're like, that's it. That.
And that's what I was looking for, but I didn't know that. So had you asked me that before you auditioned, I don't know. Sometimes the actors surprise us. That's in their control.
Yeah. And so on the opposite side then, is there anything that really turns you off, aside from just giving you one take? Is there anything else that really turns you off in the audition when it comes to actors and their whole, I guess, delivery, or even when they come into the room, or anything really where you're like, actors, please, I think we need to move past that?
Yeah, I think it's really important to note that your audition starts the minute that you walk in the door of the waiting room, not when we hit record. Because, and this is one thing about self-tapes and why we can't rely on them solely, is because we need to be able to meet you and make sure that you are, you've got to fit into a whole culture on set. Right. And so it's fine maybe for 1 10-hour shoot for a commercial, but if we're going to cast you in a film and it's shooting for 4 weeks in the middle of nowhere, and you have to be, with the whole crew and cast for that long, we need to make sure that you are going to be able to cope with that as a human. And we don't want to be, we have to recommend you. So
as a person,
and an actor who is, great for the role. So there are a couple of different things that we have to do. And, I think there's a lot of actors have done themselves a disservice by walking into the waiting room and, bad-mouthing projects or other actors or other casting directors, or, it's just sort of a bit of bad behaviour.
I think you literally just said this morning for self-tapes. I think one of our biggest bugbears is not having an actor as your reader. It seems to be important, but it really is. Yeah. Because we hear them, and it's more frustrating to listen to that and know that you're just not getting the delivery that you need as well. For that to us. Right.
So that becomes a distraction to you. Then you start focusing on the reader and not the actual actor on screen.
The timing they need. They can't give them the right
tone.
The tone, it's just not there. They think that the person just needs to read the words, but that's not what an actor's doing. They should be reacting and actually engaging with that person, and they can't.
I mean, I've had some actors put forward self-tapes with no reader.
Same.
And I'm just like, what is
and
happening?
And they just give a blank. It's just a pause.
It just doesn't.
It doesn't work.
Albeit, like some of the acting is amazing, and it's great. But it's just like, but I still need to see. Still need to see you react to what the other person is saying.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They're two things.
There we go.
Yeah, those are great things too. I think that's, very valid things. I'm curious as well, do you think, like from your perspective, do you think it's important for an actor to, because I think, thinking back to when I was acting, and especially when I was younger, you just want to act and you want to just do all the things and you want to prove that, I can play an 80-year-old and I can play an 18-year-old. I just want to perform. But do you think it's important for an actor, to start thinking of themselves as a business, as, what style or what types I am appropriate for and can play? Am I good at drama? Am I good at comedy? And start to hone in and focus on that in the sort of beginning stages of developing their career, so they know, I guess, when they present themselves to casting directors, that this is the area that they really shine. Would you recommend that a great way to sort of think about it at the beginning stages?
Yeah, I've always been a bit of an advocate for actors thinking about it like it's like you're a business. I think it's clever, and it's also proactive in a sense of making sure that, because you like, for instance, we get like over 1,000 submissions per role on projects sometimes. So the more of a presence that you have in terms of, I mean, I can use Instagram as an example, but we follow lots of actors on Instagram. The minute that I hear a name that I don't know, I just jump on Instagram and I look for not to stalk you at all, just to see who you are if I haven't heard your name before. But also if I go to a theatre show and I see someone that's not represented, it's a really great way for me to be like, oh, this person is really great. Like, why aren't they repped?
But I think it's right. It's the same thing as like for us as an actual business. We think about our goals and where we see ourselves, and then it's making sure that we make the right decisions and take the right steps now to work towards those goals. And I don't think it's like actors should be doing the same thing. They're entitled to make decisions and choices that enable them to reach the goals that they want, rather than just saying yes to everything and just it might not be right for them. And they need to forward think that.
And I think a lot of actors think that they need to say yes to everything, because if they say no, we won't come back and ask for the next thing.
Yeah.
But that's so untrue, because I respect a no just as much as even though sometimes it's really disappointing for me to hear no when I've thought, oh, this actor would be great for this. I just hope that and then they say no because it's not for them. I'm just like, oh, damn it.
But that's okay.
But it's okay. Like we say no to things all the time.
Yeah.
So there has to be an element of, I think actors think about casting directors like we're some higher being or something.
Like we're very quick to blacklist.
Yeah.
But we don't.
But I guess you just need to think about the fact that we're all on the same page a little bit, because we also have to do the same thing on our end to get those projects.
Yeah.
So if you think about it in a business sense, if you think about, oh, I'm an actor and I'm a business, but Chicken and Chips, even though they're casting directors, they're also a business. So everyone, thinking about it like that is a little bit more empathetic, so you can kind of understand where each other is coming from, and then it just drops the
stakes.
Yeah, it also just allows you to know that we're just trying to do the best job that we can, and we're all good. So,
But also they could take the pressure off themselves a bit as well, because I think a lot of them a lot of actors think they need to be really, really, really good at drama and really, really, really good at comedy and really, really good at horror. Like if you can't do it all, you're not good enough. And we just go blanket rule, no, you're not right. And it's like, that's not true. We just have complete respect for someone who just nails comedy, but drama's just not their thing. That is okay. That's your thing, and own it. Don't feel like you have to be doing dramatic pieces, because if you're not comfortable and it's not your thing, that's fully okay.
Yeah.
And we also say we're also a big fan of the leaning into your strengths, because if you're booking work and that's where your strengths are, then you should totally just lean into that.
And yes, like what you were saying, Catherine, finding things that are appropriate to you.
Yes.
Like, let's not be silly about what character work.
You do need to be aware of the roles that you
want to do and can do.
And are likely to be cast in, I think is what needs to be thought about.
Oh, well, this has been so wonderful, ladies. I thought I'd wrap up just asking you, are there any sort of words of advice that you might have for actors out there in terms of the casting process or just starting out as an actor, anything that they could be doing that you think would be really great?
Yeah, I think in terms of the audition process, I know this is probably really difficult advice. This is probably difficult to put into play, but I think if you think of the audition process as an opportunity to act rather than a pressurized scenario where if you don't nail it, and you don't get the role, it's going to be really hard for you to remove yourself from it. I think that's a really nice way of, when you walk out the door, feeling like you just had a really great audition. And we love that actors give us feedback all the time that we make them feel really comfortable in studio, and they always have a great experience with us. So I think, just learning how to enjoy it and play rather than it being the be all and end all if you don't get the job. Yeah. It's very hard to put into practice.
But comforting to know.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I got some great advice from an acting teacher like when I was 18 years old. And he said, walk into the room like it's your first day on set. And that's always stuck with me and has always been such great advice on those moments where it's a big audition and you start to get really nervous and put that little extra bit of pressure on. I think, no, let's imagine like it's the first day in set. And really, you just want to see, our work and what we can do. And when we come from a place of ease and being comfortable, it's so much easier for you, right?
Yeah, totally. Because we want you to do the best job that you can do when you walk in the room, right? So it's counterproductive for us for you to feel under pressure. Yeah, for you to feel pressure and the last thing we want to do is let you guys walk out of the room thinking that you haven't done a good job. That's not. Yeah, that would be that to me is probably the worst thing as a casting director. I wouldn't want that. No.
Yeah. Anything from you, Al? Any words of advice?
Wow, I was really just listening to Steph. Really. I think we're very much on the same page with that.
Yeah.
I think at the moment, especially in the landscape now, I reckon good advice is for actors to, one, use the time to educate themselves on the casting landscape and how different casting directors are operating and what it is that they like. Not to see, but how they service the self-taping and in-studio thing. I think just being knowledgeable about everyone's different circumstances is really helpful because it brings that comfort that they need, because I think most actors are going into, and this is why actors do our workshops, because they get to know exactly how we operate and what it's like to be with us. Anytime you have an opportunity to go to a workshop with a casting director, I think it's a really good idea, because if you can at least remove the question mark of what's it going to be like in there and how do they function, you've already eliminated a whole area of nerves. And we find it every time we do a workshop, we think we're saying things that seem so obvious to the actors, but their minds are actually blown to just hear things that we feel are so mundane. So I think the more actors can just educate themselves on every casting director's process, the better they'll feel.
Yeah, that's great advice as well. And in terms of your workshops, are they all in Sydney or do you do workshops online?
Yeah, well, during COVID, we were doing this thing that we called a scene jam, and we were doing it once a week, and it was just a really quick, very small classes, like 8 people, an hour and a half. Everyone got a scene, And it was like we taught hundreds of actors in that time, in like a, 6 to 8 month period, I think it was, that we were running them. And it was just a really great. It was great. It was a great way to just kind of work with a whole bunch of different people from around Australia that we wouldn't generally get to work with. And
we have done a few online like that, like via Zoom through classes, like through schools that they've invited us to come and do it. So we and we're doing we are doing an in-person workshop coming up
at the hub. And they've just asked us to do another one because it sold out so quickly. Yeah. Which is nice.
And usually our chicken and chips ones were in person. That's what we did before COVID. But we just haven't figured out whether they're going back and how we're doing
capacity.
them, because it's just a bit.
We'd like to do more of them. It's just the format and capacity at which we can do it. So it's a tricky balance.
Mm.
Well, if any of our actors want to get in touch with you for workshops, whether they're in Sydney or if you do end up doing any more online ones, what's the best way for them to get the information?
So if they go to our website, they can sign up to the mailing list, and that will give them, we usually send out newsletters like once a quarter, and that will give you like all the upcoming dates and what's happening, and our social media. So if we've got a workshop coming up, so say the hub one, we post that, we'll just share that on our Instagram usually, and we'll just put the link there and you can go and have a look. So keep an eye out on there actually, because when the second one gets released, we'll do a story and post it up on our Insta.
Okay, great. And what's your Instagram handle?
It's chicken and chips _.
Chicken and chips _.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the show notes for everyone. Oh, well, thank you so much. It's been so wonderful to spend this time getting to know Chicken Chips a little bit better. I really appreciate your time, and I know our listeners do as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope everyone learns a little bit from that.
Most definitely. Thank you so much, Chicken and Chips Casting, for a wonderful insight into the world of casting. Now, if you've been listening to this episode, getting inspiration, wanting to jump into the U.S. industry and get to work, well, let's start getting to work on your American accent. Go ahead, grab my free American accent guide that's going to break down my step-by-step process to get you sounding all American. It is yours. It is free. Just head over to katherinebeck.com/accent. And don't forget to let me know if you loved this episode. Take a screenshot, share it with us on Instagram stories, tag me in it at Katherine_Beck_. You can find me there, send me a DM, let me know any topics you want to hear on the podcast, and I'll be happy to share them on the show. And coming up next week on the show, we're going to be talking about how to avoid accent overwhelm. You know, that feeling when you're learning the accent, but you're not quite sure if you're doing it correctly, and then it becomes all too much? Well, we're going to dive into that topic next week, so stay tuned for that. Now make sure to share the show with all your actor friends, let them know what's coming up next week, and invite them to tune in with you and learn how to become an all-American actor so you can be the working actor you dream to be. Until then, go practice your American accent, and I'll see you back here next time.